The village of Oakwood was small, with cozy cottages, winding roads, and fields stretching for miles. Thomas, a farmer, spent his days working the land. He had lived in Oakwood all his life, learning the ways of the soil from his father. Now, in his 30s, he was a strong and reliable man, known for his hardworking nature and his quiet, thoughtful demeanor. His wife, Julian, was his heart's companion. She had delicate features, with pale skin that seemed to glow in the sun, and long, wavy chestnut hair that cascaded down her back. Julian was gentle, always helping others in the village. She worked with a calm grace, whether tending to the animals or assisting her neighbors with their tasks. Her eyes sparkled with kindness, but there was a hidden sadness behind them, because despite her love for Thomas, she was unable to give him the children he longed for. Julian knew that Thomas had a deep yearning to have a family. While she adored him, the quiet ache in her heart grew as she watched the families in the village. Thomas never complained, but she knew he wanted more than just her company. He wanted children to love, to nurture. Still, she often reminded him, "We have each other, and that is enough, my love." But Thomas couldn't ignore the emptiness that grew in him, the deep desire for a family that he could share his life and love with. This feeling sometimes consumed him, but he never spoke of it to Julian. Instead, he buried the sadness deep inside, focusing on his work. One bright, sunny day, as Thomas worked in his field, he noticed a woman standing at the village's edge. She looked like she had just arrived, her hair catching the sunlight like a halo of gold. Isabelle was different from the women in the village. She had a confidence about her, a sparkle in her eyes that made her stand out. She smiled at him warmly when their eyes met, and Thomas couldn't help but feel drawn to her. Isabelle had come to Oakwood searching for a new start. She was in her late 20s, with a natural beauty that made heads turn. Her eyes, a deep blue, held a quiet intensity. Her face was soft and youthful, but her figure, with curves in all the right places, gave her a sensual presence that could not be ignored. Isabelle was aware of her allure, and she used it to her advantage, always knowing how to speak and act to gain the attention she desired. Thomas was immediately charmed by her, not just by her beauty, but by the way she spoke about her dreams. She had a warmth in her voice that made everything she said seem so inviting, so full of promise. She, too, wanted a family. She longed for the life that Thomas had. They spoke about their desires for the future, and as the days passed, they became closer. Isabelle's smile became a beacon of hope for Thomas, filling the void in his heart. They laughed and shared their thoughts on everything from nature to life. And before long, Thomas realized that he felt a deep connection to Isabelle. Isabelle for her part, found Thomas intriguing. She liked the way he listened, the way he spoke, and the gentle warmth of his presence. She sensed that he was a man of depth, someone who could provide the kind of love and stability she'd always dreamed of. It wasn't long before they became more than just friends. Thomas, with his quiet charm, asked Isabelle to be his wife. She agreed, her heart filled with excitement for the new life they would build together. Isabelle quickly became part of the village. She and Thomas worked side by side, building a home filled with laughter. Soon, Isabelle gave birth to 2 beautiful children. Anna, a bright-eyed girl with an adventurous spirit, and Ben, a boy with his father's gentle demeanor. Thomas was overjoyed. The emptiness he had once felt was now filled with the sound of children's laughter. He adored his new family, and Isabelle was a devoted mother, her love for their children unyielding. Her beauty and sensuality had not gone unnoticed by the villagers, but it was her tenderness toward her children that truly made her shine. Isabelle had a quiet power, an appeal that didn't rely on her looks alone. She had a warmth that drew people in, and that power became the center of her world as she nurtured Anna and Ben. However, as happy as he was, Thomas couldn't ignore the quiet pain that grew in Julian's eyes. Though she continued to help Isabelle with the children, teaching them how to care for the animals and plants, there was a sadness about her. Thomas noticed it, but he didn't know how to ease it. Julian had been his companion, his love for many years, but now she was slowly becoming a bystander in her own life. Julian loved Isabelle, but she could feel the distance between her and Thomas. He was no longer the same man who had spent long evenings talking to her about their dreams. He was different now, more consumed by the duties of fatherhood and his role as Isabelle's husband. She told herself she should be happy for him, but the quiet ache in her heart was always there, gnawing at her. As time went on, Isabelle began to feel something she hadn't expected: jealousy. She noticed how often Thomas spoke about Julian, recalling their shared memories, telling stories about the good times they had once had together. Isabelle didn't understand why Julian was still such a prominent figure in Thomas's life. Why couldn't he let go of the past and focus on their life now? One evening, as Thomas went out to tend the animals, Isabelle came across a box hidden in the corner of their bedroom. Inside were old photographs and trinkets that Thomas had given Julian. The sight of them stirred something deep inside her: anger, confusion, and a sense of betrayal. Why did Thomas still keep these things? Wasn't she his wife now? Wasn't their future together more important than memories of the past? Isabelle's mind raced. Overcome by emotion, she took the box and threw the items into the river, hoping to erase the past that seemed to stand between them. But as the items drifted away, Isabelle felt a strange emptiness inside her. She had removed the reminders, but she realized that she couldn't remove the past from Thomas's heart. She couldn't erase the love he had for Julian. Days turned into weeks, and then Julian fell ill. It started with small signs, a cough, a weakness, but it soon became clear that something was wrong. Thomas spent more time with Julian than ever, his concern growing with each passing day. Isabelle watched him, feeling a mixture of guilt and sorrow. She knew that his love for Julian was deep, and now, as Julian lay on her deathbed, Isabelle could see how much Thomas was suffering. Though Isabelle wanted to be there for Thomas, she couldn't shake the feeling that she would never be able to fully fill the space Julian had once occupied in his heart. Every time Thomas held Julian's hand, whispered words of comfort, Isabelle could see the bond that had never truly been broken. Julian continued to smile through the pain, telling Thomas, "I will always be with you, even if I'm no longer here. Take care of our family." The words stung Isabelle. She had once believed she could replace Julian, but she now realized that some things could never be replaced. One cold evening, Julian passed away quietly, surrounded by the family she had loved so deeply. The village mourned her passing, and Thomas was devastated. His grief was overwhelming, and he withdrew into himself, unable to find solace in anything except his memories of Julian. Isabelle tried to comfort him, but her heart was heavy with regret. She knew that no matter how much she tried, she could never take Julian's place in Thomas's heart. Isabelle realized too late how foolish she had been. Instead of trying to erase the past, she should have embraced it, should have learned from the woman who had meant so much to Thomas. As the months passed, Isabelle began to reflect on her actions. She sought out the older women of the village, learning about Julian's kindness and the life she had led. Isabelle realized that she had been blind to the love Thomas had for Julian. Now, she wanted to honor that love, to ensure that Julian's memory lived on in a way that was respectful and loving. Isabelle began telling the children stories about Julian, teaching them about the woman who had helped raise them. Slowly, her jealousy turned to sorrow, and she found peace in the idea of keeping Julian's memory alive. Isabelle had learned that love wasn't about replacing someone. It was about carrying their memory forward. Isabelle spoke to Thomas one evening, her voice full of sincerity. "I have made many mistakes, Thomas," she said softly. "I was jealous of Julian, and I was wrong. I want us to remember her with love, and I want Anna and Ben to know how wonderful she was." Thomas looked at Isabelle, his heart full of gratitude. That would mean so much to me, he said. From then on, they worked together to honor Julian's memory. They told the children stories, planted flowers in her honor, and made sure she was never forgotten. Isabelle's transformation was complete. She had become a woman of strength, kindness, and love. The village began to admire her for the way she had grown, for the way she honored the past while embracing the future. Thomas was proud of her, and together they built a life that was full of love. One year, they held a celebration in honor of Julian. The village came together to share memories and plant flowers. Isabelle stood beside Thomas, holding the hands of Anna and Ben, and together they celebrated the love that had brought them all together. Thomas looked at Isabelle, Anna, and Ben as the sun set. "Thank you for being with me," he said softly. "You've made my life whole again." Isabelle smiled. "We've learned from the best, Thomas. Julian's love will always be with us." And so they moved forward, carrying Julian's memory with them as they built a new life together.